All right. Hi, everyone. Coach Cindy here, and I'm here not with Max Ryan. I'm here with Jennifer.
Was it say Max? Oops.
Yeah, it's all good.
Oh,
And Jennifer, actually over a month and a half ago, so we finished kind of towards the beginning of January, she did the 12 weeks Activate Your Health coaching journey with me. And she's here to kind of share her story with you, where she came from, and how far she's come. And I'm so excited to dive into this kind of interview today because I'm excited because the person who's showing up in this interview is radically different than the person when we first started. Like your confidence is just totally different now. And the way you kind of speak, you speak more freely. It's not, yeah. And so I really love it. And I love that other women are going to be able to see that in the group. So let's just go back to the very beginning, right? Let's start there and then kind of create that picture, that journey and how you got here. Kind of just let's start with first, who are you? What are you about? Like let the women know kind of who you are.
okay. So my name is Jennifer Ryan and I live in Glencoe. I'm married and I have 3 sons. One's in Texas doing his master's in ag economics at Texas A&M. And I have a boy in Fanshawe and one at Glencoe District High School. And so that's kind of my little bit of my world. They keep me busy and I enjoy them quite a bit. I'm a secondary teacher. I teach in Dresden and I teach English full time. So I have kind of it's a busy schedule, just trying to kind of keep up with that. So now that's kind of what I do. I like to volunteer in Glencoe. I do some volunteering. I'm a 4-H leader. So I teach with a 4-H beef club and do some things with my church and with the Ag Society. So I keep busy when I want to. So that's a little bit about my background. I don't know.
Yeah,
More
great.
than that. Yeah.
Let's think back to that first time. So you and I chatted, we did a video chat, and I was getting to kind of know what your goals and your kind of history was to kind of see, you know, working together kind of makes sense. Are we a good fit? And is it the right path for you? And so just think, walk women through the very beginning, like what you were feeling and thinking at the time and what made you feel like you needed help.
So I remember the first time you sent me a Facebook friend request and didn't know anything about you. And so I kind of did some research and I saw, you know, there was some women I admire for being fit. So I'm thinking like, can I name the names?
Sure. Yeah.
I'll just watch Natalie Close was one and Kelly Elliott, Anna Tidball or Anna Alec Tidball. And there was just some names there. And I'm like, these are fit chicks. I'm okay. I'll follow, whatever. And then you messaged me a couple times and then we did the phone thing and then the video. And I'm like, you're tenacious and I'll give you that. But time I got to the video one, I will tell you honestly, that whole week, I was like in knots. It was one big thing for me to get over. And we recognize I had a huge amount of fear coming into this. And so that meeting that morning was awful. And I remember because I was kind of sitting at the end of the table because I knew that the backlight wouldn't let me, it was a terrible light situation. And so I really don't think I looked you in at the video, the monitor very much. And it was very uncomfortable. I remember being very uncomfortable that whole situation, and very emotional that day. Like took me a lot to click onto that meet and to go in. So yeah, it was a huge thing for me to do that.
And I remember you sharing that you almost canceled the meeting. You weren't sure. And then I remember like you being on the other end and I got a full sense of fear, hesitation, fear, a lot of doubt. And we just had like an open conversation about, I just asked you a bunch of questions. You did a lot of sharing and we even connected some dots for you as well.
Yes. That day.
Yeah. And so, so just you finished the call and then kind of, how did you feel after that?
I was still really, really unsure because, you know, it was, I think I committed to trying it that day. And then I remember getting off of it and going, I don't know, what did I just do? Like, it's November, like November and January are busy times for teaching for report cards and stuff. And I'm like, you don't have time. Like, it just so many things went off in my head. Didn't have time. Like, yeah, it's Christmas is coming. It's this busy season. And then I kind of stopped. And also the money. I mean, it's a commitment for that wise. And then part of me thought, if it was my kids, I would have committed to that in a heartbeat. And knew I needed something because what I had been doing, it wasn't working anymore. And I wasn't feeling good. And I wanted to move forward. And so I thought I needed to try. And so that was kind of when I sat and talked to myself that way, like if it was any of your family members, you would be pushing them to do something good for themselves. So I pushed me to do this for me. And I'm
And
so happy.
I love that you share that, because a lot of women will get caught in the, if it was for the house, no problem
Yeah.
spending it or investing in it. If it was for the kids, no problem investing in it. But when it comes to me, I feel guilty or I feel selfish for
Yeah.
putting that on me.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to how you gave back to the family, because it did, even
Okay.
though it was a
Yeah.
journey of one, it became a journey of many.
Yes, it does.
Throughout the journey. And so you also mentioned there, like, the fear was based on November, December is our busy time. I have a default pattern through Christmas and January, maybe I can do this on my own. Can I do this? Can you just like break down a little bit more of the fear? Because I think that's going to resonate a lot with women
Yeah.
who are watching.
Well, I just had like to talk about the pattern. I've always had a pattern probably for the last probably 10 years that I would probably lose a little bit of weight from September to December on my own. And then once Christmas hits, we just like let it go and I would party with the rest of them. And then January comes and that's, comfort food season. And I'm sitting a lot doing marking and just sitting around. And I would start to gain weight. And so from January to February to March, I would usually gain another 5, 10, 15 back. It didn't just depended on the year. And then I was like, whoop, let's wait for the cycle again. I'll start again in September. Like it just was happening. And so it was really kind of like tired of that cycle. But also when you start breaking cycles, I mean, that's a bit of your identity too, that you've had for so many years. So stepping away from that, I find was a little bit daunting as well. But Christmas it's always been about tradition, and especially with the women in my family and following their traditions. And, you don't want to disappoint. I don't want to like disappoint the family. Things they each have a favorite cookie and they have a favorite thing. And I like to make something that my grandmother and my mom made. And so, I still like to do that in my heart, but I recognize this December and I'm like, it's still sitting there. So you have to kind of figure out how do I go forward enjoying those things I like to do and still not sabotaging yourself completely. And you came up with a brilliant idea, which that's gonna get given away next year. That's the plan. So a little bit will be kept for family enjoyment, but that's going to become giftable, I think. So
Yeah,
I'm
because
like, oh,
what
that's
we
brilliant.
realized is that you were really connected to memories around Christmas and
Yes.
traditions that were around them. But what we weren't really doing was honoring them.
Yeah.
Like when we overeat and overconsume to the point where we're, so overstuffed, we're not really honoring the tradition or honoring the food. And we came up with ways to really honor the tradition,
Yeah.
still have some of those favorites because they were really important to you because they were attached to memories. And then, yeah, we came up with a plan of anything that's kind of laying around, doesn't it make a really great gift to then spread that memory to someone else?
Yeah. Yes. And, I may attach the recipe that my grandmother had or my mom had with it and give it. So that's, that's definitely something that will be done, I think, for 2022. So
yeah, and it was so great because that was like always kind of like a point in the year that kind of always set you back, and then this year it didn't, but you also didn't miss out on the memories or the traditions or anything either. They both, you figured out a way to mesh them together.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty big. Yeah. To have that happen. So
in January,
it was huge. As I say, to get through Christmas and be the same weight, like that was so cool. That was awesome just to go through and just start January and know I was already on the path and going. And that was, it didn't have to start. I didn't have to remake me, all those New Year's resolutions. I was like, my resolution is to stay the course. So
Yeah.
that was awesome.
But stay the course, but you also continue to lose weight. Because one of the things you first
Yeah.
said in the beginning was January is usually a time where you regain, because it's
Yes.
also a busier time at work for you with the semester change, right? And
Right.
so, and then, it's winter time, and you said I always gain weight, but you lost weight this
I
time.
did. I lost 10 pounds in January this time. It was awesome. I looked at my recordings and I'm like, holy doodle, I did it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's been
So
fun.
when we first met, though, you were already working out.
Yes. Well, I thought I was. I
Right.
was exercising.
You had a movement practice, like you basically
Yes.
like said, I'm going to commit to moving this
Yeah.
often, every day, and you were doing that, but it wasn't translating into results. So do you just want to share a
Exactly.
little bit about that?
Well, I like to get up. So I started, I guess, yeah, I started in October 2019. I can tell you probably the exact date. It was a PD day and they brought in a lady to do some movement with us. It was from a local gym and I couldn't do any of it. It was so embarrassing for me because it was like to get up and down. It was just nothing. I couldn't move. So we have a bike here in our living room, a stationary. So I got on it and I committed to 5 minutes in the morning. I didn't even get out of my pajamas, actually. I just got up, did my morning thing, and then 5 minutes on the bike, and that was it. And so 5 minutes became 7, became 10, became 15 over a course of months. And then I started adding some other things, like, and I did some squats, or I might have done some squats and some just incline push-up. It just kept adding to it, but I got to the point over the last little bit that I didn't feel like I was making any gains. I mean, I was doing more on it, but it just felt like I knew I needed something more. I wanted something more. And I knew I probably was going to have to get some help to do that, but I really didn't know where I was going to go get it. So the Lord sent you, boom, and here we are. That's what I figure happened.
Yeah, yeah, because I hear that a lot from women too. Like I eat healthy or I work out, but it's just not happening. It's just not clicking, and they feel kind of like at wit's ends because they're like, I'm doing everything and it's not happening. And I got a little bit of a sense of that from you too, because you had experience losing weight and being successful.
Yeah.
Came back and then some, and you were successful at consistently working out, but it wasn't getting you the results you wanted.
Yes, that's exactly it. So yeah, like the year before, like from May 2020, I started from there till about October. I think I lost 30 pounds. But then my father passed away, and then Christmas came, and so those things I let kind of some things go, and then the weight kind of came a little bit. Probably 15 of the 30 came back on, and then I wasn't having any luck with that after that. So, and I think like the nutrition part was big. I wasn't really aware, like the awareness piece wasn't there in terms of, like, I learned the word macronutrients with you. I didn't really pay attention to that stuff before. So, and other diets you've been on, I mean, they just tell you what to do, but they don't tell you kind of the reasonings and how it works and what it does to your body. So that information was really good stuff for knowledge and for help building your skill sets.
Yeah. So let's go there. So like we start coaching together, you're like high anxiety, high fear, because you're like, okay, day one, we're going to jump on a call and I'm going to walk you through it. Because we do a call at the very beginning to get you set up, and then we do a call 10 days later, and then we kind of spread them out after that. Yeah. And so you have your first call, you're all anxious or whatever, and we just set up the first 10 days. And I remember saying, I think, like, I'm asking you, like, how does that feel? And you were like, yeah, that feels manageable.
Yeah.
I remember
like
kind of like sighing and being like, okay, my fear and my wall is a bit down, because it's not because you were so used to all or nothing approaches.
Yeah.
And this is different,
exactly. Right? Yeah. Except I remember arguing with you about like coffee and certain things. Like the first elimination was like, oh my gosh. But it was funny because once I got into it, I didn't miss the sugar, and I didn't miss the coffee. And I mean, doing the new challenge with you, I'm like, I've gone through and I'm like, I don't even remotely miss the coffee this time. last time I was looking forward to it again, and I'm like, not this time. So I think I might have been able to kick that part of my habit. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun. But yeah, getting into that first elimination, or yeah, the elimination, I found it a little bit empowering, I think, towards day 7 and 8 of it, because it was like I was doing it. I was missing some things. And it was starting to get a little bit exciting then. So,
Yeah.
and it wasn't painful, or I didn't find it very bad. So it was interesting those first 10 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
mind shift was quick.
for the women listening, we do a 10-day kind of gut reset first. So we want to make sure
Yeah.
that the gut's good before we kind of take off there. So that's kind of what she's referencing there. And so for you, you had a lot of emotional connections to food. When you felt certain things, then you did certain things. So how did we
Yes.
work through some of the emotional stuff, or what were some of the things, like if you wanted to talk to a woman who also had some of that, what would you say? Like, what were the things that we kind of worked on? I don't know, my question's going all over the place, but I think you get the
That's
idea.
okay. I think with the emotional part, like I always have trouble with like the 4 to 6 o'clock time of day. I mean, I can almost do the whole rest of the day fine, but for me, for some reason, at 4 to 6 or 3 to 6, that's my munchie time. That's my weak time. I can kill a day in that time period if I'm not careful. And that's when the sugar cravings hit the most. And I'm not sure if that's just a time of day that I'm like, phew, that part of the day is done. Now I got to gear up and be like second job doing mom and stuff, or what the deal, because I still sort of struggle with that time of day. But I think really stopping and asking yourself the questions of like, why am I doing this? Why am I feeling this? What's going on? What has happened? So I think it's just that real conscious asking yourself that question, and really examining why you're trying to do something, and then wondering, like, if you are hungry, giving yourself other options. And so I saw something on a meme of something. It was like, if you think you're for cravings, if you think you're really hungry, see if you really would eat a banana or not. And so I started asking myself that, do I really want this, or do I just want a banana? And so that usually killed both of them, because I don't want to eat that many bananas. So,
Yeah.
but that was some ties. Like, you really have to be conscious, I think, when you're having emotional ties, like what's happening and what's going on. So some of the journaling helped with that, being conscious of that. That was a help for some of it. But just jotting stuff down so I have stuff in 3 different notebooks right now, because it was whichever was handy at the time.
Yeah, because what we did was, so we kind of like used it as an opportunity to learn, to like connect back to our body. What are we feeling? What are we thinking? To then see what is it that we're actually needing. And that was something that you weren't doing before. You were kind of automatic in that time. And now we were just saying, you can still do that, but we're going to pause first and ask those questions first.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's super helpful.
And then you
Start doing-
discovered, like, hey, like, no, I'm not hungry, but you discovered also, like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of other feelings and things that were going on that were better resolved doing something different than eating, because it wasn't really going to solve that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so the whole we work on habits. So what did that look like for you? Because I feel like it's as elusive as being mindful, right? So what does
Yeah.
that look like for you when you work on habits?
For my habits, I was working with the water, like making sure I had enough water, because I know I was not anywhere near where I was supposed to be. And so that habit definitely, I have a real structured morning. Those habits, and to me, that's what I kind of kept as my non-negotiable, was my mornings. And that's, I get up and I do my movement, and the water's in there, and then I go on and about my day. And that just really does focus me that way. And I find if I can keep that movement and the water, and that starts my day, and that's kind of what helps me that way. But even just sort of the journaling and that habits of tracking the food, that was really helpful in the beginning as well. And now you just sort of consciously do it as the day goes on. I got 2 more carbs to go. You just kind of, I've kind of joked, I said I found it like a puzzle. So you had to fit all your pieces in and see how it worked. So That's kind of, I made a little, sometimes make a game out of it for myself to see what you could do and couldn't do. And yeah.
Yeah. And I
But I
love that.
think this,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I just say, I think this, like making sure, like just the basics too, like the slow eating, that's still something. I know even like tonight at supper, it was kind of rushing through to try and get ready for this. And I was like, oh my Lord, I'm not eating slow. So I threw my fork down and just looked around for a few minutes, just slow yourself down. So that was a big concept and a hard skill for me to pick up, was
Yeah.
slow eating.
So we worked on like mindset habits, and then we worked on little habits like eating slow and hydration. But then we worked on, because you said, hey, I learned macronutrients. So we were working on the
Yeah.
bigger habits as well,
Yeah.
and really calibrating depending on what was going on. We modified them or what have you. And I liked that you used the word non-negotiables, because that's often where a lot of women mess up is, or miss out on, is because they don't have a baseline of habits. And so your non-negotiables at what we work on is trying to get 60% of our habits to maintain that as a baseline. It's a non-negotiable. No matter what happens, we keep 60% of our habits. And so that means when Christmas comes around, when report card season comes around, those times in your life that are kind of the ones that you used to set you back no longer do, because you know how to go to 60% and then you know how to go back up. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Having that 60, sorry, my phone's ringing. Just 1 second. Sorry, there, got the kid on it. See if I can get this done. Yes, so actually when you said the 60%, that really resonated with me. And it was funny when we were talking about, what was 60% and what looked like 80%, like how much effort. I at the time when you first introduced that concept, I said, I didn't think I was doing 60% at all. And you led me through some questions and I was like, oh wait, I am. And so that made it really doable. Like I know if I go back to make sure you're drinking, I do my exercise in the morning, eat the protein at certain, throughout the day and have the veg, you can make it through. And that's what my default is. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
in the very beginning, you talked about, it was an investment or what have you. And then I kind of said, some women, have that a hard time with that, but because they feel guilty for spending it on themselves or selfish for spending on themselves. But how did it kind of expand outside of you? Because it influenced your family in different ways too.
Yes, it was funny to watch as my journey and watching them kind of come along with me. Because at first it was in the first 10 days, they're like, well, should we, they want certain things. We're like, well, we can't eat that because you can't eat that. And so they were just very conscious of what I was doing and what I could eat and couldn't eat. And they didn't want it to make a burden. And so I started adding in a lot more vegetables to meals. And it was funny because we got one night, I threw in a ton of extra vegetables into some spaghetti sauce, but they kind of cooked down. And my middle son looked at it and went, I thought you said you put vegetables in here. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, well, I thought it would look a lot more. And I was just like, oh my Lord. So it sort of has like snowballed a little bit because they are consciously eating, I think, more veg. And I noticed they don't get through some of the old snacks like they did before as much. Max started doing some workouts in December too. And just, it wasn't like I was pushing, but I just think the modeling, and even on the weekend, John, my husband said, you can drag us along with you. It's okay. We all need it. So, I mean, he's just been super supportive and watching some of the workout videos, and he's like, oh, maybe we should make you a room. And I'm like, yeah. So it's just, little comments like that. It made me happy because, we can all be healthy or whatever. But I did it for me. And it turns out I kind of did it for them too, because they noticed Mom has a lot more energy. I'm a lot happier at night. We used to joke around here that 9 o'clock at night, I was pretty much done at 9. Like, don't ask me big questions. Don't ask me for anything. Mom's checked out. And Jack says, now at 9 o'clock, if you don't want to talk to us, it's because you don't want to talk to us. It's not because you can't.
Yeah.
So it's made a difference that way in my relationships with them too. So
That's so
yeah.
great. I remember you had a tradition of baking a dessert on Sundays.
Oh yeah, the family.
I
Yeah,
remember the first time you're like, I think this is the first time there's been leftovers. Like,
I had to.
yeah.
I had to throw half a chocolate cake out. It was, I've never had to do that because they just didn't seem to want to eat it. Like before they would eat it like 2 or 3 pieces at a time, and no, that didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, I don't know. And I sort of slowed down. Well, some of the Sunday dinners haven't happened lately. So, but they, once in a while they'll kick in, but yeah, a lot of times they won't eat the sweets as much as they do want a little bit better food. So that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that's so great. And so I asked you if you wanted to do this interview at the end of your 12 weeks, and you said ask me down the road. And it's been like
Yeah.
a month and a half, almost pushing 2. And you just recently
Yeah.
joined our consistency club. So you're in that
Yeah.
group coaching program. And so
Yeah.
I think that's great because sometimes we get this idea of I'm going to finish it and I'm going to go back to old habits, or I'm going to finish it and I'm going to regain the weight, but that hasn't been the case for you.
No, no, it hasn't. So I've still moving down the scale, which has been really great. The Consistency Club doing the new challenge has been this one's even like a little more challenging to me, just with some of the, the not expectations, but just like I don't know, trying to get back into that mode again. So a lot of it's similar to what I have been doing. So it's just kind of getting back on the horse and getting back into it. But I would say this last past week, with changing semesters and starting a new semester and report cards, it was probably one of the harder ones I've done in a while. And because there was a lot of stuff happening at work, and I fell back on the program, and that kept me sane. So I was really kind of thankful to be doing it again, because I knew what my expectations for me personally with food, and work didn't interfere with that. And that I, at least, you didn't have to have that second thought sometimes with, just grab stuff and go. I'm like, no, I still had my structure, and that really was grounding for me last week. So I was very appreciative of that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's great. And okay, so we've lost a significant amount of weight. We've lost over 50 pounds.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot, eh? For
A
me.
lot.
It's a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
But what women maybe who knew you before can see a different Jennifer, but women just meeting you today and how I started off was, this is a different Jennifer. It's not just about the 50 pounds, but you radiate so much more confidence.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Do
You
you
keep
feel
saying that, so I hope it's true.
You don't feel it?
I do feel more confident. Yeah. I just feel like I can move better, which is pretty awesome. I say it's just like to me, it's like a game. What can we do next? And what can we do now? And, just little things that you notice. Like I did a belt up lately that I actually had to ditch one because was too big. I mean, that was really big. For just little things like that, or big moments of triumph for yourself. So it's been a fun journey. And so I've got some plans still here to keep moving on to. So
Yeah.
just a little bit at a time.
We were just talking about it before we jumped on the interview, what her next goals were. And I had to remind her that we first have to celebrate the milestone that we're on currently before we can then move on to the next one, which is often a misstep.
Yeah. I found out the hard part is celebrations. Like that is one thing I still have trouble with, because I think sometimes I look at stuff as this is our job to do and you should be doing it. And I'm like, really, no, I think we do need to learn how to celebrate what we've done. And that was a really hard concept to get my head around. But I'm really trying hard to make sure that some of those moments get honored. Yeah. So I am more forthright in telling people, hey, look, I just did this, or I've been a little more forthright in celebrating those, because they've made me pretty happy lately. So
yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Let's own them. Yeah.
That's right. Yes.
So as we wrap up, thinking about like, what advice would you give somebody that felt the way you felt at the very beginning?
I would say to take the step, and to take the try, because I look at the fear I had, and even the fears that keep coming up. And I'm thinking you just have to do that one step and try. Even in doing some of the workout videos, like I looked at some of them, like moves like planking. I was like, I'm never going to be able to do that. And I just that one day I got down and did try it, and it was like, whoa, like you can do it. So, I mean, I think we got to get out of our heads and out of that fear zone that I think we've built up for ourselves over some years,
Yeah.
and like go back to when we were little and just give it a try. And that's really been a hard thing for me to do, but it's getting easier by the month to just give something a try and see. Because what's the worst that was going to happen? It didn't work. Oh, well, we find a new path through it. So yeah, that's been a huge changer for me. So
yeah, I love it. And what a great place to kind of finish today's interview. Anything else you want to add before we go?
no, well, just my thanks for reaching out and all the help that you've given me. Changed my world significantly. So thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. Thanks for being such a willing participant to go to some of those places, because introspective work isn't always easy to do. And thanks
No.
for always, because there was always, anytime we made like another leap or incremental shift, there was always a little bit of hesitation, but you leaned in a little bit, and then you
Yeah.
proved to yourself, like, I can do this. And so
Yeah.
it's always so great working with somebody who can combine those two things together, because then change snowballs. And I also like that you're the kind of client who's still adding to it. You haven't just stopped kind of evolving your practice. You keep testing it and evolving it and evolving it. And so I just know that this next milestone you have, like, you got it. It's in the bag because you keep doing that.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
We're going to do it.
I
All right.
am.
Thanks for joining us today.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
hope that you women, the women that are watching this, whether live or replay, will be replay, I guess. If you're in the comments, just drop and give her a shout out in the comments. And I'm sure she'll be happy to answer any kind of your questions in the comments too. But I know a lot of it is going to resonate with other women, because I talk to so many of you that are inside the group, and I hear your stories. You know, we might not always share them or talk about them public, but I hear them, and I know that it's going to resonate. So thanks, Jennifer, for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.